to our Ancient Quirks podcast. Today we have our special guest, Mr. Jack.
And today we're going to be talking about World War I, but the conditions leading up to World War I. So we're not actually talking about World War I yet, and we're going to talk about World War I in the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say, sir, it's a great honor for you to be here, and also a great honor for you to be the first ever teacher on this Ancient Quirks podcast. So.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here and see if we can get see how cause and effect happened, to see how World War I took place. Maybe we can stop World War III.
Yeah, maybe.
Hopefully.
Or maybe I'll start it.
No, Daniel.
Slow down.
So
the time period before World War I, if we trace back by like the time frame, is the Industrial Revolution. And what time period is the Industrial Revolution?
well, the Industrial Revolution kind of started in, the 1700s to like 1800s? That was kind of like the main era. Question is, do you guys know which country it started in?
I know. It's from UK.
United Kingdom.
But at that time it's Britain, right? Great Britain.
That's all kind of the same
Yeah.
thing.
A little comedy right
And,
there.
and the Industrial Revolution also spread to other countries and also helped other countries, like helped Germany and also neighboring countries, like not neighboring countries, but helped France.
Which sort of makes me think about World War I as a conflict itself. You can't say it started because of one reason. You can't say it was between two countries. Just like you can't say that the Industrial Revolution was a British thing. So to me, I think about this time period being a time where you can mark that the world is taking the next step and being interconnected. My problems are your problems. My inventions are your inventions.
And it's like a chain reaction.
Yeah.
I mean, with the Industrial Revolution, when it started first in Britain, they were able to depend on their own resources, like coal. But later on, when they start advancing, they kind of need to import more stuff from other countries, like iron or cotton from other places, just so they can start producing more. So it kind of made the world economy more focused on, like, depending on everyone. You can't depend on just your own country now. You need to start trading more.
Yeah.
So.
And basically what happened was there was like an agriculture revolution too, when like food became widespread and like available for everyone, so everyone could have all the food resources. And also like, yes, increase in population. Population increased.
I mean, what were some of the things that you guys know of that were invented during the Industrial Revolution?
The cotton machine, right?
Yep.
Think about the developments in the steam engine and how that made things easier for people, but then also later on, not to spoil y'all's next episode, but as technology gets better, we do things better for kindness and transportation. I think about the economic increases, but also it gives us more fuel to the flames of having stronger weapons for warfare. And I know when we look back at the two world wars, there's so much more negative impacts because of technology as well. And so stewarding the Industrial Revolution was a huge task for the world to hold.
And
Yep.
the cotton industry also became like advanced and improved through the improvement of steam engines.
Do you know who invented those engines and like machines and stuff?
He's a man named James Watt, and he invented it in 1760s.
I mean, like, the Industrial Revolution was good, but there were like good and there was bad. So do you guys know some of the good and bad, or what?
I don't know much for the bad parts.
The good part is, I think it made Britain one of the wealthiest countries. Britain and France, one of the wealthiest countries in Europe, and also like Britain was able to export 2.5 pounds of raw cotton, not tons.
I'm personally thankful for this shirt, and I just want your viewers to know the real men do wear pink. And but when I think about how I think over the shirt, I do wonder who made the shirt. I think those are some of the problems that I'm concerned about this industrialization and how the world starts producing more. This is tons, right? This is tons of things, but then you have all these people who are many of them underpaid to do this, and sort of causing this anxiety that's coming up to a boil. That some of that eventually takes place in various revolutions, and then perhaps those tensions led to the war as well.
And there's also, I think one of the downsides is they work in labor and they work for long hours.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially women and children, you know, they have to start recruiting anybody now because they need more people, especially to work in the coal mines, because you gotta fuel the factories. But talking about underpaid workers, I think you can all guess what came out of the Industrial Revolution too.
Capitalism?
Nope.
The death of capitalism.
Underpaid workers.
So like, sleep.
No.
Is it
Starts with
classes?
S. Starts with S.
It was kind of the backlash from that, right? Like the socialism.
Yeah.
People trying to fight back against that.
Socialism, like communism. It's
Spoiler!
And that the idea of socialism is created by a man named a German philosopher, Karl Marx.
Karl Marx didn't exactly invent socialism. It was more of an idea proposed by other philosophers at that time. Karl Marx later learned and read about socialism and ended up making his own, which was the Communist Manifesto. And this is really important for World War I because, as you all might know, spoiler, in World War I, the Russians were overthrown by the communists.
And Karl Marx was alive during the 1800s.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of European countries at first didn't industrialize, but later they did. But I mean, there was a certain area of Europe that didn't industrialize. Which area do you guys think that was?
That was industrial.
That didn't industrialize. They actually kind of rejected industrialization or didn't care for it. It's kind of evident today if you look at Europe, the wealth gap of which countries are poor and which are rich.
Which country doesn't? Which country doesn't?
Denmark.
What?
No.
No. So if you
Remember
Russia.
Yeah, Russia. Oh yeah, Russia.
So if you actually look, you can see that all of the Eastern European countries actually didn't industrialize very fast. It was only like mainly Britain, Germany, and France, which is eventually what led to them fueling their economies and helping them, fight throughout World War I. But yeah.
Yeah, I think wasn't it later on that they sort of tried to catch up with the rule of Stalin and the sort of the next step of socialism, where he was trying to industrialize the nation. Actually, it did a pretty good job with the money part, with the people part. All of them died. So.
Yeah. But we don't talk about that.
So at that time, when Britain had like the Industrial Revolution, is Britain's economy like capitalism? Would you call it capitalism?
Yeah, because it was like individual, it was like wealthy rich men owning large amounts of factories, and they weren't being controlled by the government. The government wasn't telling them they have to give all of the money to them or whatnot. So.
And so the idea of socialism kind of opposes capitalism.
But while industrialization was very important to also helping in World War I, there's another really big factor which the Europeans need, because they may be able to industrialize, but if you actually look at Europe, you'll see that most of these countries are actually very small, so they barely have the resources they need. So what do you think they need to do to get more resources?
Better transportation.
Whenever I want something, I just take it from people.
Yeah,
That's how I do it.
it starts with C.
Stealing.
Oh, they would colonize other country and kind of like take the resources from that country.
Yep. European expansion or colonialism was a very big factor because it led to the European countries going everywhere, taking land, and some of this would cause them to have conflicts with each other because, like the French and the British in America, the Spanish and the Portuguese in South America, and then there's this, what was it? When they divided up Europe into parts.
And the number of British colonies at that time was about 120.
Yep.
Which is amazing when you think about if the technology is so high and they can process so many more goods. And you've got the people like the Portuguese doing all this traveling and discovering new land, but also then bringing all these resources back in to also fuel those other economic policies of like mercantilism, getting everything in so that we can then tax other people on that. That really, I feel like, showed how the world was very connected, but also then began to lengthen the gap between wealthy and poor nations as well.
And one of the examples of colonialism I remember is like the Britain that ruled Singapore and Malaysia before, or the French colonized Cambodia and Laos before, if like Asian countries, from what I remember.
Yep. And probably one of the most important factors for World War I and what was caused because of Napoleon. What do you guys think that was?
Nationalism.
Yep.
It's a rise of nationalism.
Yeah. Are you guys patriotic for your countries, or?
Sometimes it's sort of a challenge to think about the idea of patriotism that's pride in country, and even to struggle with that as even people who we are here on the Quicks podcast who do live in an international community. We maybe even not even living in the same places, and even for me, having grown up in Africa, sometimes it's an interesting topic. But nationalism is the next step, right? Where you're saying, not only am I proud of my country, but I'm so proud of my country that I might even be willing to squash the other people down there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what countries that fought for nationalism? What example of some countries?
All of them were pretty good examples because, especially at this time, if you remember, Italy and Germany are still like multiple little states, and so obviously when Napoleon went around on his like little wars and whatnot, not a little now.
Oh come on, isn't that short? You gotta let the guy have a break.
We all know he was short. Nothing will change my mind.
He's short, but he's still intelligent and strong.
Yeah.
Pretty much sure.
But short, so not attractive.
Anyways, at this time, they were all still split up, but now once Napoleon has spread the idea of nationalism, because he used the idea of nationalism to keep France together, we are French people, we are superior to all the other people. Yep, vive la France, baguette.
Which is interesting when we talk about baguettes too, and I want to take food from people. I love food as well.
Yeah.
But all these different ideas, and you take even capitalism, the basis of capitalism is let's be selfish.
Yeah.
And if we're all selfish enough, everything stays equal. And then the idea of industrialization is let's be so selfish that we work really hard to invent things and we end up with awesome cameras, right? The idea of that colonialism is, hey, if we can do it, then we should. So let's go and let's get resources from other countries, let's take it together. So it's like seems to be a common thread of humans wanting more resources and more power, and that sort of does then take us to the idea we want more. Who do we want more for? Is it for us? And who's us? The countries were becoming more connected, and then also the nation states were becoming more and more clearly defined. And so their nationalism finds its ugly head rises up, I think. And then you've got people who want more things and who are beginning to draw very, very clear lines around them and saying, these things are for us. And then that causes lots of national pride, and then sometimes alliances make those things happen. And then you end up with this trickle effect where you're a bit stuck. It's hard to go backwards then and say, no, actually, I'm giving you this. I'm stuck with an alliance. Now I have to take things for someone else who I have an alliance with. And I think that's also part of what led to the political climate of World War I.
I mean, with like nationalism, it was the Germans. I mean, first it was like Prussia versus Austria. They were fighting over who would combine all of the German states. Of course, Prussia ended up winning, But like after, it's kind of this identity of we're Germans, the Austrians are similar to us. So then they ended up, because a lot of the German population too was German speakers or ethnic Germans. So even though they fought with each other over who is the real Germany, they ended up making an alliance anyway because they had similar interests. They were very nationalistic. And then Italy too, they started fighting against the Austrians to gain their own independence and sort of connect their country into one because they're all Italians speaking the same language. Yeah. So that's a very big factor in World War I, because now you have all of these different groups who are really proud of their own country, thinking they're superior to each other. And especially the French and the Germans. And after Napoleon III's defeat in the Prussian-Franco War, it didn't really have any peace between the French and the Germans, you know? Yeah.
And they hate each other at that time.
Yep.
And so Germany and Italy unified at 1871.
Yeah.
How did they? What caused that unification?
Because it's all kind of like,
The
Like-
idea of nationalism.
yeah, it's like, oh, we all are the same people, we all look the same, we all speak the same language, we have the same culture, we're just split into different groups, so let's all just get together and form one big group, you know?
So, which is sometimes beautiful when you have unity. The idea of unity seems beautiful, but then it depends on what those people try to do. Like we go back even to ancient Greece and think about how democracy is a wonderful thing. But then the flip side of the coin is the mob. And that's where democracy goes really wrong. And even unification goes really wrong. I can think about even as the Rus people went from being a scattered groups that became one unified state, they began to see how much power that gave them. And so I can even think about how sometimes we even unify people in order to gain power over them and gain more power over larger groups, and then we can accomplish more things for ourselves. So then unity itself is a means to an end. And perhaps that's even, those are more of the factors that took place to bring us to a place where unity of alliances were starting to take place in the political atmosphere, and then countries were becoming so powerful and so reliant on their own people that when threatened, like any cornered dog does, they bite.
A corn dog?
Any cornered dog. If you corner a dog, it's probably going to bite you. So you might want to actually let it go. But I do bite corn dogs too.
Yeah. So like curs, kind of.
Oh man, I'm hungry now.
You guys provide snacks for this podcast?
There's water, right?
I bought that one.
So
There's delicious air, oxygen here.
Delicious.
This is.
There's a nice plant too.
Yeah.
Maybe we should industrialize the school.
Well, actually, it's pretty industrialized. We can think industrialization for the cameras we're using and the printouts we've done and these snazzy PD uniforms we're wearing.
Yeah.
I can't imagine stitching it together myself.
Yeah. I'm glad that you
Yeah.
didn't switch mine.
your own fashion style.
Yeah.
I wouldn't wear it.
Which takes individualism, right? Our individualism sort of starts to go away a little bit with industrialization. Instead of my mom made this, it's my mom worked in the factory and she hit that button, right?
Meaningful.
We start to fall into the masses, I think, into the masses and become more like each other, and individualism goes away a little bit. But selfishness still rises.
A lot of people find pride being in a group, like I'm from this family, or
Yeah.
which is very good.
Very good.
No, which is like a very, how do I say? It's like that's how it kind of puts in the idea that you're better than others, or you have that. Anyway, it's like the Serbian nationalism,
Oh.
especially Serbia, because they were one of the main. They were basically the main reason why the war started, because there are Serbians living in Austria too, and so then they want to free those Serbians and integrate them into part of the main Serbian kingdom or land, and then that's also not including all of the Balkan countries around them, like Bosnia, especially after I think Austrians invaded.
Also at that time, Austria kind of ruled Serbia before, and Serbia wanted independence, kind of. And so for what I remember, a Serbian or either a Serbian or a Bosnian person assassinated the Duke of Austria.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
when
was-
you, yeah, when you draw the family tree, it's incredibly awkward with all these inner relations, and
And
it all came to a head in 1914.
the
That's-
assassination of Duke
Yeah.
Franz Ferdinand.
I mean, that's basically the start of the war, but
Yes, in June 28th.
What year?
I mean,
That's
1914.
yeah.
1914, I think. Yeah.
1814.
well, what relations did you think the countries had at that time? You know, the relationship.
Bigger nationalism?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
what did France think of Germany? What did the UK think of Germany? What did America think
There
of
was
Germany?
so much tensions, and like each country doesn't really like each other. Like some European country don't really like each other, and also like they talk behind each other's back.
But at the same time, they do need each other.
And there have been some other more isolated conflicts between them, like the Franco-Prussian War,
Yeah.
So like
things like that.
siblings.
So
Yeah.
And so the Franco-Prussian War was in 1870 and 1871.
Yeah.
So that was before.
Yeah.
I mean, like interests change, so it's like before Austria, Germany, Italy were getting very buddy, you know. But then Italy didn't really feel like Austria and Germany were including them, so they switched sides. Now they're with the Entente. You know.
back with siblings.
Yeah.
And so in the Franco-Prussian War, who won?
In the Franco-Prussian War,
Yeah.
Prussia beat France really badly, so that's why the French
Oh,
hate the
yeah.
Germans.
Oh yes, the French hate the Germans.
Yeah.
We apologize to our German viewers at this point.
If we have any.
Anyways, that kind of explains the alliance. Because do you know how the alliances kicked off? Like what the alliances were?
No.
Oh,
Could you explain
I
that?
do know. It's somewhere.
I think it has to do something with trade and money. It's
So-
got to with what we discussed.
The alliances are the what is it called? There's the
central-
ally. Oh yeah. The central powers are France, Russia, and Britain. So
No.
Germany, Austria, and Italy.
Yeah, not Italy. Italy was a bit part of them, but then they later left them
Oh,
and joined the
really?
other side.
Oh,
Typical Italians. Apologize to all Italians.
If we have any.
We
Oh,
did.
yeah.
We did before.
If this podcast gets popular in the future and I get cancelled, yeah.
Yeah.
What a mess. Yeah. We
and
try not to offend somebody.
Yeah.
and we also have the Ottoman Empire also helping the German and the Austrians.
Yeah. So then on the Entente we have France, Britain, not originally, but they were, and it was mainly France and Russia. Later Britain joined on, and it was mostly because Britain wanted to secure the neutrality of smaller countries like Belgium, who they knew they could defend themselves. So, I mean, a lot of it was also too, these alliances were just to prevent the influence of others, because France and Russia saw Germany as a big threat, so they don't want them leaving their German borders, you know? Keep those pretzels where they are.
Wait, where did the pretzels come from?
I think it's Germany,
Oh.
hopefully.
Fact checkers, please check that. Cancel for pretzels.
Maybe I should have said beer instead.
And so the allied powers are Russia, Britain, and yes, Russia, Britain, and France.
That's right.
They're all one team. You know.
But they had a different name. You know what that name was?
What was it called?
Yes, I just found it in my notes. It was the triple entity.
Yeah. I think it was Entente?
Because I think they use the French language because it's superior to all other languages.
Yeah.
As is known by all of our viewers.
Not anymore.
That.
The triple alliance.
Entente.
Entente.
Anton.
Entente. Yeah.
Antony.
E-N-T-E-N-T.
Anton.
Antoine.
How do you spell it again?
E-N-T-E-N-T-E.
It's ready for the spelling bee tomorrow. Oh,
Anton.
that's all I went through. Man, weren't you that?
So they're kind of like triplets having an argument.
Yeah.
There's
I
one-
mean, interesting fact though, this was called the Cousin War too because Britain, Germany, and Russia, their current kings were all cousins at this time. And they all had the same grandmother, Queen Victoria.
Those grandmas
So-
have lots of kids.
They actually said that the German Kaiser, he said himself, if their grandmother was still alive, World War I would never have happened. So,
Why is that so?
because she probably would have gone over there and beat them.
Yeah, so that sort of begs the question then, how do we, when we think about the war about to start,
Yeah.
then how do we think about, given the circumstances that led to World War I, how do we stop World War III from happening? Because we have to get this discussion to a close, but also be aware that the boiling point of a war comes over so many years. We have the social, we have the economic ideas and movements that lead to this, and so what is the cause of war? I don't know if I could ask that question. What causes wars generally speaking, and how can we stop wars from happening?
Words, arguments, right?
The basis of arguments.
I feel like it's largely off the belief that you are superior. Oh, sorry. Largely off the belief that you are superior to someone else.
Yeah.
And so,
And then the inability to solve that through discussion, which I'm thankful for your podcast, because we can discuss incredibly awkward topics and potentially offend our viewers, right? And so, as our discussion comes to a close, we figure out how do we discuss things that are difficult. So I think if we can discuss things that are difficult, we don't have to pull our guns out.
oh yes.
I mean, at this time too, because with technology rapidly advancing, they didn't really get to use them against each other, you know? Because the last major war that they had was the Franco-Prussian War. So they sort of just, you know, they were excited to test it out on each other. They need to see how advanced they're going and how stronger they were. So that I would say that's one of the main reasons why the war happened.
And so, yeah, World War I is like a multi-faceted factor, and it's not like this country was the only country that started. It's like many factors
I think it goes back to the selfishness of people.
and many triggers. There's lots of triggers at that time.
Yeah.
I think it's just greed. If you look at all of these, it's all basically greed, you know? You want land, you want money, you want power, you want to feel superior. That's all greed.
And to prevent those things, like if we just could like talk more about it, like, you know, like have conversations and without anger or like, you know, violence.
Bringing
How
more
do we
community,
show-
yeah.
Oh yes,
And
without
sharing
violence.
and like being humble to each other.
But I think that starts in classrooms and in houses with real siblings. And then I think it will echo, because one day those siblings could be the heads of countries.
Yeah.
Yep.
It could really happen, it's probably going to happen again. And then I think that's how we stop World War III.
Our
Is through learning how to be
environments.
kind to our brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think that sums up about the pre-World War I episode. Hopefully you guys enjoy our conversation and perspective on this video, on this podcast. And yes, we'll see you guys again.
Thanks, guys.
See
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah.
Bye.